Hey, folks. Welcome to Pop Culture SquadCast Live. It is Tuesday, July 24th, or June 24th. It's June. It's the last Tuesday of June. We had a fantastic weekend at HeroesCon this past weekend. We have a great pair of guests that we're going to have tonight, talking about some cool stuff, talking about work that they have coming out and work that they've done. Mike is not joining us tonight. We're hoping that he's going to be back next week. He's been dealing with some stuff, but I spoke to him today, and we're looking forward to him being back next week. So it's just going to be me. But I have a couple things I want to go to before we bring our guests in. One of them is, let's see, we got to get the comments over here. Okay, hi Sherry. We went to HeroesCon, and it was a great show. It really continues to be one of the best shows out there. I'm gonna play this while you listen to me. You can see what it looked like on the floor. What do I want to say about HeroesCon? We want to say that first of all, go to our Instagram if you haven't gone to Pop Culture Squad's Instagram. There's a bunch of videos that we did with guests, talked about why they liked HeroesCon, talked about why asked the question of the day type of things, and it was a lot of fun putting that together. This show continues to have great guests, has easy access to get in, easy access to the guests. It is a comics only show. Like, there are no celebrity guests. It's just comic book people. It's people buying comic art, people buying comic books. There's tons of, if you need to fill in some blank spots in your collection, you'll find them there. That's for sure. The paneling was good. We went to a couple of different panels. I would have liked to go to more, but I was just too busy talking to people. And it's a lovely city. The location is great. It's in the downtown, kind of revitalized area of Charlotte. You don't have to go far to find something to eat. There's, even the to be honest with you, the food it's convention food and it's floor food. It's not top of the notch stuff, but it's not expensive, which is one of the things that's interesting about it. But we're going to continue to go back to HeroesCon. We have a great time there, and it was a lot of fun. What else do we need to talk about? Well, there's been quite a bit of information, a lot of things going on in the world. News has been dropping left and right. Since we were on last week, on Thursday of last week, there was some big news that dropped, and we're going to talk about it right now. But we're also going to talk about it probably in the future. It'll be something out there. But there's a new company, a new website. I think it's pronounced Neon Ichiban. But we'll find out for sure. This is being launched by Chip Mosier and David Steinberg, who are the guys behind what was good about Comixology, and it is possibly a Comixology type replacement. Comixology, as we all know, is not useful in the way that it was. There's been some other attempts at trying to make it something, make there be something like that. Neon Ichiban is going to have a whole bunch of participating publishers. DC and Marvel are going to be there on day one, along with Dark Horse Distillery, Kochana, Oni Press, Vault. It's being advertised for both comics and manga for consumers and collectors, so that you can. There's going to be some level of the kind of things that Distillery was trying to do in terms of their, digital exclusive type stuff. So this just got announced last Thursday. We still have a lot to learn, but it's definitely interesting. It's something that we're going to want to hear more about. It's something we're going to keep our eye on. So stay tuned to Pop Culture Squad later this week. We're going to have a little bit more details on what we know about it. And we'll talk about it then. All right. Hey, Patrick, glad to see you here. this is, one of the things I wanted to say really quickly is why do we do this show? It's something that has kind of come up in my head, recently. One is I like to talk to Mike, and he'll be back, and getting Mike on the show is important for me, but also, I've thought there's a lot of different podcasts out there, and everybody can listen to what they want to, and we do this for you every Tuesday night. We bring in guests and we talk about the craft and we talk about the industry and we talk about what makes comics cool and what we like about it. Um, and we're going to keep doing it as long as we can. Even though that there are other people who do similar things. We hope that our guests are interesting. We hope that you guys will continue to watch. You'll continue to tell people about it. And I hope you like it. I guess that's a big part of it. One of the things that's fun about what we're doing is we're getting to the point where people notice us a little bit, and we have some friends who are in the industry and people who talk to us and let us know things. We had, if you go back in the catalog, we had two of the principals of Ignition Press on a few months ago, and we're going to continue to talk about Ignition Press because they keep giving us more and more new information. They're dropping stuff way ahead of of San Diego Comic-Con, and if this is an indication, we have at least another 10 things to happen between now and three or 4 weeks from now. But what we do know is that there's going to be the Ignition Press Room at San Diego Comic-Con. They have now announced 4 titles to their books, and we have even today, Deluge by Cullen Bunn was announced. The Roots of Madness was announced on yesterday, which is Stephanie Williams' book. Voyeur by Leah Williams was announced last week, and we still already know about Murder Podcast. And I am going to stop right there and let you know that I don't want to do that. So, Cullen Bunn is working with Marika Cresta with Colors by Rhonda Patterson. We need to make sure we acknowledge everybody in the group. So Cullen Bunn and Marika Cresta is doing Deluge, which just got announced. There's no date on that yet, but it looks like they're going to do a cold open for that, which is kind of what they did with Murder Podcast, where there'll be probably maybe a Kickstarter that gives you kind of an ash can type thing, gives you a first chapter that may lead to something about what this story is about. I liked the way they did that on the Murder Podcast. I have to say that Ignition is definitely bringing some high quality content. Their creative teams that they're putting together are really, really excellent. The stories that they're starting to tell us about are intriguing and exactly what we want to hear from somebody who's kind of focusing on that. Like, if you like, the horror genre, this seems like it's going to be a publisher that you're going to enjoy. If you don't, well, it's probably going to be pretty cool anyway, but we'll see. That's a couple things. I have one more thing that I want to get to, folks, before we bring in our guests, because I'm excited to bring them in. But we're going to talk about this soon. So we have guests coming up over the next couple of weeks and beyond. But it is the last Tuesday in June, and we're going to talk about a bunch of Kickstarter things that are happening over the next couple of weeks. We're going to have a Kickstarter guest on, but before that happens, within 2 days, this one will end, and I want to talk about it really quick because it's by people that we like a lot. There's a Kickstarter that ends in 2 days, and it's called Aces and Arrows. I think that's how we're going to pronounce it, and we're going to share it with you right now. So it is put up by Kat Kalamia and Phil. This is an anthology from the publisher that brought you Transphoria by Visibility and Herology, It is a 100-page graphic novel that collects 21 brand new short stories about asexual and aromantic spectrum experiences. I think this is fantastic. I think it's great. These people put out high quality Kickstarters all the time. Lifeline Comics is somebody that we are friends with. We like to support them at all times. And we are super excited for this book. It's already funded, but I do want you to think about taking a look at it. Going to Kickstarter. I'll put the link in the comments so that everybody can get there. And it's only got 49 hours to go. So if you want to get behind this project, we certainly would support you doing that. It's something that we like. You won't be disappointed with the quality of content that you get from Lifeline Comics. They're pros in this business and their platform is Kickstarter, and they put out good stories time after time. So I just wanted to highlight that before we bring our guests in, and we're going to do that right now. I'm going to put that link in the comments, so check that out while we bring in our guests, Amanda Deibert and Kat Staggs. I'm very excited. Hi. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I am so happy to have you guys here. I'm very excited to talk to you guys, and we can talk about your new book. I do want you to know that, like, I do this every Tuesday, and Kat's art is shown every Tuesday right behind me over here.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
So you're here on the internet every Tuesday.
Yay.
And I love the fact that that's there. So that's the print from Crosswind.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
So I've been wanting to have you guys on for a long time. You know that. And we could spend the whole time, with Kat and I talking about Michelle Pfeiffer if we want to, but we'll skip that.
I mean, I won't hate that.
Yeah.
But a lot of things I want to talk to you about. Let's talk though first about the new book, Death Mask, Volume 2. This is Volume 1. Death Mask, Volume 2. Comes out in July. Am I right?
Yes.
Right about that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
It is called ICHOR Azure. Is that right?
Nailed it.
Okay, cool. What's it like returning to this book with Detective Sonia Maza in this book? Like, so this, for those who haven't read this book, which shame on you, the new volume, which is also a graphic novel, has the same detective character, right? So what was it like coming back to that character? Was that something when you ended the first book, you said, oh, there's more stories to tell here?
For sure. I mean, we end the first book on a cliffhanger, which, like, obviously, spoiler alert, she survives. But which you learn very quickly in Volume 2. But yes, it's continuing the relationship that basically gets formed between the serial killer and the detective in Volume 1. They have to reunite, and now there's a lot of trauma with that because they've been through a lot, and they've both at this point tried to kill each other. So it's about them having to come together again, which is pretty complicated for both of them.
Right.
So how is this book different in terms of when you guys were approaching it, working together, versus the first one where you were just kind of like trying to put these pieces together? Was it easier?
And I think probably about the same about the same amount of difficulty, but it's more like exploring. Well, okay, maybe that's true. I threw in a lot more characters for Kat in volume 2, so it was harder for her. Yeah. For me, it's about, Los Angeles plays so much a part in both books that we were really. The first one has a lot to do with, it has a lot to do with motherhood, but it also has a lot to do with the people that we don't see in society and people that can make themselves invisible because we're not looking at them. And, the people that serve as ice cream at our ice cream parlors and clean our houses and do all the things that we decide not to pay attention to. Like that, yeah. And so it's a lot about that, and then crime underbelly. It's a lot of the unseen. And in volume 2, it's exploring the side of LA that is very seen. So the children of the rich and famous, influencers, people that are like putting themselves out there in a really big way, are kind of the targets and the focus this time. So it's getting to play with both sides of that and that dichotomy, which it's really fun looking at them together. It kind of is a pretty big exploration of life in LA.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, definitely in the first one, LA is a character. It's part of the story. I love the character of the detective. I think there's a lot going on. I think it's just such a wonderfully put story in the fact of the character design, both visually and emotionally, and the way that she set up. It's a story that I think is good. Is good that you told it. So I'm very looking forward to the second one. I haven't gotten it yet. I'm gonna yell at somebody at Storm King, but
we just got ours.
We literally just got it.
Well, I'll take the digital for now, but that's good. Well, I'm glad. One of the things I understand that it's coming out on July 22nd. Is that your
correct? Yeah,
that sounds correct.
Yeah,
I know that Storm King, being one of the smaller publishers, has had a lot of difficulty with having been through Diamond, and now they have a different distributor, and I know that was a problem for something. So I'm glad to see them being able to be regular in terms of what their expectations are.
Yeah, same here. I absolutely adore working with them. They're one of my favorite companies to work for. Sure. So I'm glad they are out from under all of that.
Yeah, I am as well. Since you just mentioned Storm King, and I noticed that the new volume is lettered by Marshall Dillon, which I'm sure his work is fantastic. But can we take a second and just talk about Janice Chang? How amazing she is.
Absolutely. She's wonderful. She's lettered
almost everything.
So many books that I've worked on.
Yeah.
she gets well, I'm not sure what's up with that, but I adore her, and she letters almost everything at Storm King now, but she just brings such a professionalism to the work, and she's almost invisible. Like, she's invisible.
Yeah.
You don't need to, but if you pay attention, it's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. No, she's absolutely amazing.
She's an absolute legend. So it's always fantastic when she's lettering your book.
That's awesome. What do you if somebody has read the first book, this first Death Mask book, what would you encourage them to come back for the second one? Is it the same? Is it a similar story? Is it a very different story?
It is a similar story while being very different. It's a continuation. It's like it picks up not very long after volume 1 ends, and it deals directly with the things that happened in between when this begins as well. You will see everything that happens right after volume 1 ends in flashbacks, and it's Detective Maza continuing to grapple with what happened and also how she feels about her career and her life and how she's approaching things, all directly involved with that. There is even there's one other person that's a little bit random, so I don't want to spoil it, but like one person who kind of popped up in a small way in volume 1 also is one of the victims in volume 2 in a kind of fun tie-in. Like there's a lot that's interwoven together. Like it definitely would be advantageous to have read volume 1 without, like, volume 2 is not a standalone.
Right.
You probably will do much better. You could, but you're gonna miss a lot. Like you want to have read volume 1. Volume 2 continues on very directly.
Yeah.
So the murders in volume 1 are very interesting.
Yes.
and graphic and
It's a little look
gory.
into my mind.
And little gory. I mean, it's horror.
I'm not
It's a horror
saying
thriller.
I'm not saying it's bad. What did you where does that inspiration come from?
This is so it's dark and twisted, as is my mind. Yeah, it's, you know, it's kind of fun for me. It's kind of dark, but also, you know, without giving too much for those who haven't read volume 1, but it gets very into, you know, there's a lot of it that involves like a mother's rage and thinking about if something happens to your child and maybe how you would want to enact that revenge. And
each murder was making a point.
Yeah, they're all. It's
Sure.
very gory, but but with a point. And I had a lot of fun. I like writing interesting kills and making poor Cat Google and research.
I mean,
how that works.
At this point, I mean, at this point, with all the you know, various series of movies, there's so many imaginative kills that have already been done. So it's always fun to brainstorm what would be an interesting way to do this, you know. So
is it fun? Is that the right word?
It becomes a little bit of a game.
I do have fun. I do have fun with creative kills.
I do too. I do too.
So yeah, we had Kelly Sue on last week talking about murder stuff, and then we had another question. Do you watch crime shows? Is that something that you guys
all the time?
Very much. It's,
is that
I'd say that's our favorite.
Yes.
It's our favorite genre for sure.
I usually work with things on in the background, usually things I've seen, obviously. Otherwise I'd be stop and watch stuff. But I always if it's not an espionage series of films, I will usually find some kind of crime. I just binged like all of Law and Order over the last like 2 months, like all of them.
I'm really into Poker Face right now because it's such a fun send up for the classic, you know, the old like Matlock Columbo.
Yeah, and I often put on like, you know, the old school stuff like, you know, Rockford and Murder She Wrote, and then there's Midsummer Murder. Then we don't get us into the British murder mysteries, and we'll just go on for days.
We watch a lot of watch a lot of crime shows.
For a lot.
A lot of murder mysteries, a lot of crime shows. We do.
That's awesome. So you guys are the third in a row of our guests where the guests are working in comics and a married couple. So we had Morgan Beam and Jorge Corona on a couple weeks ago, and we had Kelly Sue on last week, and her husband wasn't, but they are a married couple, and now we have you guys on. So one of the things we asked is, how does that work for you, working with somebody who's in the same industry? How does it work for you when you're working on separate projects and when you're working on projects together? Like, do you guys have set times, places? How do you approach that?
I think it's actually an asset both ways, either when we're working together or apart, because when we're not working on the same stuff, we still tend to run things by each other a lot.
Yeah.
If we just want another, like if Kat needs a fresh set of eyes on something that she's drawing or laying out, or like, you know, a script moment or and same thing if I'm writing something, I'll be like, does this make sense to you? Would you understand what I mean by this? Like that kind of stuff. So even when we're not working together, we
still work together.
Yeah, we tend to run things by each other a lot. And then working together, there's such a shorthand, it makes it really easy. You know, because at this point we've been together for so long and also working together for so long that it's very easy. And then also just having the other person in the next room if you do have a question.
Right. It's
Do
so
you,
much.
You know.
you work in separate rooms?
Yes,
Usually,
but there's
yes.
not like a closed door. It's like there's a doorway between
Okay.
us. So we can, I mean, like we can still be sitting where we're working and kind of be like, hey, Kat, if I blah, 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 does
Yeah.
that make sense to you?
Right.
Right.
Or
I
I'll
mean,
just
this is one
bring
of
the
the things,
tap
one of the
in.
reasons why I wanted you, and I've talked to you guys about this. Like, I wanted to figure out how people do this, 'cause I think it's really interesting. Like Morgan and Jorge go to a studio. They don't work at
Mhm.
home. They both
Mhm.
go to and work in the same studio.
Mhm.
And and Kelly Sue and Matt kind of live at home and kind of have their own spots in the house.
Mhm.
But like being, I think it's really interesting to be able to. I think it's an asset in your life to be able to work with somebody you live with and have that. But I also could see it becoming a point where you're like, I don't want to deal with this right now. I don't want to talk about the work now. I don't want to. Let's move on to something else, or let's not do that. Do you have to put those boundaries in place at times?
N- well, sort of. I mean, we kind of tailor our workday as much as possible to our daughter's schedule.
Okay.
So when she's either at school or camp or whatever, that's when we really try and plow through as much work as possible. And then try to have our evenings free.
So
As much
so that we're
we
hanging
can.
out with her. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it really like we get up early, do a little bit before she wakes up, then it gets, focused on her and breakfast and getting her wherever she needs to be, and then we work, and then yeah, it's like after we have dinner together and then we kind of shut down for the night unless one of us is on a really insane deadline, and then
Mhm.
it's like, okay, I'm going back in my cave.
I'm going away now. Had dinner
But
with you.
otherwise,
Bye.
but yeah, otherwise we do kind of like the separation because we do work from home. But again, that's nice because we do have a young daughter.
Mhm.
That for us, it kind of right now it's dictated around her schedule pretty
Mhm.
much.
That's awesome. She's
Yeah.
gotten way too old, though. You may say young, but she's.
I know, I
Mhm.
know, I know. She's 10 now. It's crazy.
Mhm.
As parents, I have a question. Like, so we talk about your daughter. You talk about her a lot
Mhm.
in your online social lives.
Mhm.
Do you treat comics differently with her than what you experienced growing up? Is
Mm.
it more part of her life than it was of yours? Is it something that
Well,
how
yeah,
does that
because I
how does that
wasn't,
work?
I didn't grow up
Yeah.
under booths at conventions.
Yeah.
I
You
mean, it's
weren't hiding under the
definitely
booth.
right. I wasn't hiding under the booth all the time. So like it's definitely more a part of her life because it is, I mean, it is both of her parents' jobs. And then I also I run during the school year a comic book club at her elementary school where every Friday with the school librarian who's one of my dear friends, um, we have this little club and any kid who wants to come and make comics comes, hangs out with me, writes and draws their own comics, reads comics, and then when they get finished, they put them together. We make a copy of it, and the librarian puts the little QR code on it, and the other kids, she has a special shelf for it, and the other kids can come check out the copies of their comics.
Mhm.
And so, like, that's a year-long thing that we do. And our daughter comes to that every week with her friends. So she's also like at school making comics with her mom, and so are all of her friends. So it's a huge part of her life.
Yeah.
um, do you think that? I mean, well, I want. How did you guys come to the meeting? That's one of the things I wanted to. Like, how did you guys individually like? Was this
Uh,
something that you grew up? Just this is. I want to work in comics, or
Initially, well, not comics. When I was a kid, I wanted to do animation,
okay.
but as I got older, I realized I'm not an animator.
What
it's a lot.
what does that
It's a
mean?
lot more work than I wanted to do.
Okay.
Um, uh, now it's a whole different ball game. But anyway, I didn't necessarily. I kind of fell backwards into comics. I was doing more illustrative work. I was doing stuff with Lucasfilm. I was doing trading card art. I was doing stuff like that. Um, and I was going to conventions and I was, setting up and putting portfolios
Because
out.
you were a comics fan always.
I
from
was a
the
comics
kid.
fan. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I read them all as a kid and all that and as a grown up. And, But yeah, I went to conventions and I set up and I was, I would have done cover work in a heartbeat. Um, but I was doing trading card art and stuff for Lucasfilm, illustrations for Lucasfilm, and then I got in a conversation with Jim Lee on Twitter, and he asked what I was working on, and I told him, and he said, "You want to try some comics?" And I was like, "Hell yes!" So then he found a project for me.
Was that Phantom Girl?
Phantom Lady, yeah, that was the first
Phantom
one.
Lady.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well,
Yeah, it was great.
And so your first writer was Jimmy and Amanda, or Jimmy and
Jimmy
Justin?
and Justin. Yeah, Jimmy and Justin.
That's
And
awesome.
then from that went to Smallville for 3 years. So that was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And so Amanda, how did you
I mean, as a
find your way
girl,
here?
I was a voracious reader of all things,
Sure.
comics and novels, and I was just that kid that was constantly like nose in a book. And I'd go to the grocery store with my mom, and she would always buy me like an Archie digest or Betty and Veronica like every week when we go to the grocery store. It was something I looked forward to. So it was always a medium that I loved and enjoyed. And then I was just starting out as a screenwriter, which is the other thing that I do as a job.
Right.
And then while I was doing that, I started dating this cute artist named Staggs.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was working on this comedy website, and I was doing like YouTube videos for them. I was in my early 20s and like just funny things. And I came up with the idea of doing a weekly comic strip that was embarrassing stories about my life that this chick I was dating would illustrate. And so we did that every week for 2 years.
Are they available still somewhere?
They're in bits and bobs, but not anywhere collected. Here's a mistake that I made very early in my career, because it was the first thing I ever did in comics, is that I let the website, we let the website own it. Like they hired us to do it, even though they were like stories from my own life and the art is all of me. And they paid us almost nothing. I mean, we were getting, like $20. Yeah. And so we sold those rights away. And then later, when the website went defunct, I came to them and I was like, hey, can I buy the rights back? I would love to just have this and turn it into a collection, or just have it like own the rights to my thing. And it was very much a no. So we can't collect them anywhere. I have some on my website as like just, you can see.
I saw them there.
The samples.
They're hilarious.
But yeah, we did one every week for 2 years. Yeah, so there are a lot of them.
It's like 100 of them, over 100 of them.
Yeah. So I wish that they existed all together somewhere. I think it would be a fun little time capsule. But that was my first foray into comics. Same. And then I was doing the videos as well. And I did this video. I was orphaned when I was young, and I did this video on Father's Day about being an orphan on Father's Day. And it was really this deadpan video where I was talking about it, but slowly throughout the video, I morph into Batman. But I never comment on it. So I'm just slowly turning into it. And it apparently like kind of went around the offices at DC. They thought it was very funny. And then an editor reached out to me and was like, hey, I've seen your comic strips. And I had worked on a few like anthologies and things, like submitted little short stories and comics. And then she was like, do you want to try writing a Wonder Woman story? And I said, oh, sure. The most iconic female superhero of all time. I'll start there. What could go wrong?
Sure.
But it didn't go too wrong, because then I've been able to continue a career in comics. So like,
deep end.
Spoiler alert, I survived that panic attack and wrote the story. So,
and I mean, and you guys both do. You're both, both separately and together. You're very prolific, and you're very good at what you do. Is that something? I mean, do you pinch yourself a little bit? Do you like? I mean, I didn't think I'd be here.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yes.
I grew up in a very like low income family in a low income area in the deep South, these weren't real jobs to me. You know what I mean? I didn't know anybody who made art for a living or wrote for a living or worked in comics or TV or like any of this stuff. Like that all felt very not like real life. So the fact that like that's actually what I do to put food on my child's table feels impossible to me still.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool. I feel very lucky.
Yeah, I've been very lucky with once got into college, I started getting jobs that were more art related, and I've been very lucky that I've been able to do this for over 20 years, knock on wood. So very lucky.
When you besides each other, is there a collaborator that stood out as somebody you enjoyed working with, and why? Even if you don't want to say the name of the person, is there somebody who you unless you, I mean, obviously I think you guys probably work well together. I could be wrong, but I think that works.
What if we no?
In certain areas, I'm sure you work really well. We're not going to talk about that.
Terrible. What are you talking about? No.
But is there a collaborator that or is there someone that you work well with?
I work well with her.
Mm-hmm.
I've been actually very lucky. I've been very lucky with the people that I've worked with. I like them all for the variety of reasons. Not that I can't just put them all in one little thing. Like I work with Frank Thierry a lot. I work with him every year, and I love the stuff that we've done. I'm finishing up another story right now with him, and
he loves you,
and he loves me.
Frank Thierry is a prince.
He really is.
He's wonderful.
And I loved working with Gail, and I hope that one day we could do something else again. I like I said, I loved working with Jimmy, Brian Q. Miller was fantastic. I adored working with him. And yet there's not many people that I don't like working with.
That's awesome. That's great. How about you, Amanda? Do you have
I mean, Kat first and foremost, and there's so many artists that I've worked with that I really love. Every time Agnes Garbowska draws something, I like when I'm working on kids content. I love, this is no disparagement to all the other amazing artists that I've worked with on kids content, because honestly, every single time it's been a delight. But every time that she's drawing something that I wrote, I just know that I'm gonna be just so delighted when I see the art back, and that it's just gonna make me like smile and laugh, and that it's gonna be better than I pictured in my head. It's really fun, like doing the Teen Titans Go on TV that we just did together. That graphic novel was really fun, because every time, like, I would get the pages back and then I'd start laughing, and then I'd be like, oh, it's a little bit vain to sit here and laugh at a thing that I wrote, but it's just, when
the
you
interpretation of the art.
When you
laugh.
see
you should enjoy what you
together. It's even funnier. Yeah. It's like, oh, I knew it was funny, but no, it's really funny.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I also say Wonder Woman 77 with Mark Andreyko was a blast. I would do that again in a heartbeat.
That's awesome. When you guys approach and this is kind of for both of you, I'd like to hear both of your perspectives. Something where you have a month or 6 week deadline on a single issue versus a graphic novel that's going to take much longer. How does your mind change for that? Do you prefer one or the other? I mean, obviously longer deadline, longer is better, but then there's always like the people who have the concept of it's better to have a longer deadline because I have longer to procrastinate, or some people are like, I'd rather have it quicker, that way I can't procrastinate. How does that feel for you guys on those different types of projects? Because you both do both.
Yeah, the shorter deadlines are okay. I mean, they are what they are, and there is a different mindset. It is more of a sprint than a marathon. You have
but it's like 6 sprints,
right
back to back.
Yes, 6 back-to-back sprints. Yeah, I mean, it is an absolute different mindset. It really is just like running a sprint versus a marathon. So it's like, but also if you know that it's going to be like a 6-issue arc, then that really is like doing a graphic novel. So it really does
Right.
become kind of a marathon because you know the next issue is going to be there and you have certain dates to meet them. So, I mean, it is all kind of the same.
So
I
in a
mean, for
graphic novel,
me, oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
I was just going to say, like, so on a graphic novel, you break it down in those similar types of chunks of what you need to get done.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I always, I I knew like, for instance, Death Mask was what, 144 pages. It broke down into, I would break them down into 6 books or however many it worked out to be. I guess it was 6.
But I gave you the whole script all at once.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, well, that's
But for
nice.
me mentally, I make those jumps.
So you had the whole script done before you
Yes.
before
Before she started.
Before I started, yeah.
Yes.
not
So
just
then I could
like
just
not
go.
just like here's the plot,
I
this is what's happening, whole
I
script.
had the whole script done before volume 1 was finished
Yeah.
being drawn.
Yeah, I really
Oh my goodness.
I literally just went from volume 1 from 2.
Because it takes, it takes
Yeah.
longer to draw it than it does to. So I had book 1 done,
Sure.
and then she was drawing it, and then I was writing book 2 while she was
Yeah.
drawing book
So
1.
when book 1 was finished, I literally just kept going. I never left these characters for however long that was. I was with them the whole time.
Awesome. Well, I hope there's a third. But
Fingers crossed.
yeah.
Buy book 2. Buy book 2.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. That's why we're here. We're talking about it. It comes out on July 22nd.
Mhm.
ICHOR Azure, Death Mask Volume 2. I'm excited. I'm excited just about the concept of how I don't want to, we'll put some stuff on Pop Culture Squad so you can see the press release and stuff if you want to, but you don't have to. Just go. It's going to be great.
Mhm.
I want to take a minute. It is Pride Month. It's the end of Pride Month, and I'm glad to have you guys on. I want to know what your opinion on where comics is in terms of both acceptance and representation today versus when you guys first came into the business.
Oh, that's a day and night. That's day and night. I mean, that was like even 20 years ago. It's just like a completely different world. It wasn't really there when I started.
Kat, when you started, were you more quiet about yourself?
I've been out for over 30 years, so no.
Okay. Okay.
No, I came out in 1991.
Okay.
So no, I've been out and about for a long time. And once I came out, I was out. That was it.
Good.
Yeah.
So it's night and day. Why do you say that?
Yeah. There's way more. There's way
Sure.
more stuff now. And I mean, like when I was growing up, and even after I came out, and all this stuff in pop culture was either for like lesbian content, unless you found an Alison Bechdel book somewhere. It was the movies were all, they either ended up alone, they went back to a dude, or they died, and like that was it. That was like the only thing you got. There was the one bright spot, which was Bound by the Wachowskis, which was a nice happy ending. But yeah, it was pretty kind of depressing for a long time. But now, man, there's way more content and way more happy endings out there that you can read about, and just, nice rom-coms that actually end like you want the rom-com to end,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. There, you brought to mind. I'm a big fan of this magazine called Comics Courier, which is by Tiffany Babb, or she's the editor of it. And there's an interesting thing in here because there's an essay about a romance comic from the 50s that was, I think, drawn by Jack Kirby. and it's called Fräulein Sweetheart, and basically it's similar. Like there's a lesbian relationship in that, and the concept of that being there's talk about that, and being where the end goes was very formulaic, and there was no happy ending even in that. Of course, she was a Nazi, so that was the problem. But
I mean,
but but yeah, I mean, I think that's fantastic. I think that the representation is super important as well.
Yeah,
What
that
about
was
you,
the other thing. I
Amanda?
mean, everybody was also really depicted, like a lot of lesbians were really depicted very butch and very mean. They were always the bad guy. You know what I mean?
So
Growing up.
So I have this conversation. I kind of point to it. I wrote up something a few years ago. Do you know the first lesbian relationship in DC Comics? First lesbian superhero relationship?
No,
It's
not off the top of my
before
head.
Pied Piper.
Okay.
It is in the 5-year gap, the Legion of Superheroes 5-year gap. Lightning Lass and Shrinking Violet have a relationship, right? So that relationship was not explicitly stated, but I remember I was in high school. I was around senior in high school, so it was like the 89 ish. And I remember loving it. I remember being like, "Oh, this is they're a couple, and this is fantastic." And they were so caring for each other, and it was so perfect. And I once talked to Keith Giffen about it because it's not explicit, and then retcons happen and everything goes away. But like within the world of that, it was never undone. That relationship didn't end poorly because of anything. But I talked to Keith about it, and I said, I really enjoyed what you did there and how you put that together. And his response was, "We got away with it." Because they didn't have any editorial approval, or they didn't run it by anybody. They just
it wasn't Wonder Woman,
right. Well, but also if you read it, you knew what it was. So I love that. What about you, Amanda? What do you think about it?
I mean, I agree. What I like now is that that it is just a part of canon, and it can be more explicit, but also not like such a and look, they're gay now, that it's just that we're seeing more and more stories where it is just like a part of it, and we don't have to wink at it, we don't have to sidestep it, we don't have to, I mean, I feel very fortunate that I haven't had a lot of experiences in writing things where I've been told to pull back on it or hide it or pretend, like when I have written queer characters. And I like especially that there's so much representation in stuff for kids. Like, that my daughter reads books and sees characters and things that look like her family. That means a lot to me, and is something that I couldn't have imagined when I was a girl, and that I definitely didn't see when I was a girl.
Even in her lifetime, even in the last 10 years, that's even exploded and grown.
So I think for me, that's probably the most meaningful, is like the fact that it has that representation has gotten to a point that there's even some in kids' books, in just the same chill, relaxed way that we see, a little boy has a crush on a little girl, maybe a little boy has a crush on a little boy, and that's it. And it's so like
it just happens.
It's just fine.
It just happens to be.
And I think that's really important and great.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because your daughter happens to have 2 moms. Like, I mean, that's just it. Like, she didn't ask for it. That's just what it is. That's what she sees when she wakes up in the morning.
Right. And she does get excited when she sees, families that look like hers in any kind of media, and on TV or in books.
That's awesome. I lost my train of thought there, but I'll go to something else. I have a question for you. This is kind of a question we did at HeroesCon this past weekend, where we were asking people questions of the day. I'm going to ask you guys the 2 questions of the day because I think they're interesting. Tell something about things. If someone has never read a comic book, is there one or two that you would recommend for people to read?
I'm a big Brubaker Phillips fan,
Okay.
but again, see, that falls into the crime genre. But
Sure, it does.
I love the criminal series.
hmm
I also am a big fan of Velvet with Steve Epting, and I mean
Sure.
that book is stunning. But I would go there. That's where I go.
That's awesome.
I mean, for me, I feel like first I would want to know what kind of stuff that they're into, because the beauty of
Sure.
comics.
It can be very,
throw
it can be like that. Sure.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think that a lot of people, when they think, like, if you don't know anything about comics, I think first of all is the default is that it's all superheroes, which superhero stuff is great. I love superhero stuff.
Mhm.
Not everybody's into superhero stuff.
Mhm.
And I think it's like this idea that, you know, when I'm talking to the kids in comic book club or when I'm talking to other adults, it's like, no, whatever you're into, whatever you like to watch movie wise or read book wise or whatever, there's going to be a comic, you know, there's biographies, there's everything. So first I would do that. But if it was just like, this is what comics could do, I'd probably go with Saga as like just an introduction of like, this is how
So
it can
that's
be.
that is a great
Mhm.
answer. Now,
Thanks.
You
Now.
win.
He's like, and here's why you're wrong.
I know.
no, you're not wrong. But I was in a comic shop and I forget what they had just read, but there was a girl, she was maybe 12, 13, and she just read something and they're like, "Oh, well, can you recommend something for her to read next after she had just read the thing?" And I forget what the thing was. And and I think they were gonna say Saga, but I think they ended up saying Black Science or something like that. And I'm like, you know what? I think they read Harry Potter. They were Harry Potter kids or something. And I said, well, you should read The Unwritten because I think that works well for that. But like, you can't just give Saga to anybody.
No.
Correct. And that's the thing. I mean, this is again, it's got to be like age appropriate. It's got to
Yeah.
be. And I think I see that happen a lot too. We just had we had a couple that was hanging out this weekend that are not comic book people, and their nephew, like, they just gave him a comic and then realized that it wasn't necessarily like age appropriate, because I think a lot of people automatically also think like, oh, comics can just
Comics
be
are
for kids, and then it's like, oh no, not that one. Oh god.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, but it's really good, but no, not that one.
I mean, it's great in a few years.
It'd be great when you're 23.
Well, and that's, we do a bunch of horror comics, and so like there's, our daughter reads a lot of comics and a lot of graphic novels, but there's a whole shelf full of stuff that her parents have worked on that she's not allowed to read yet because it would not be age appropriate.
Right.
Which is fair. She'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be something she can look forward to.
I will throw out that if it's superhero books, end all be alls is Darwin's Justice League.
Mm.
New Frontier is fantastic. I agree with you. Apparently, we don't want Vampirotica for the.
I'm gonna agree with you there.
Although that's a great title.
Yes, New Frontiers is absolutely fantastic.
It really is.
Talking about that this weekend.
Beautiful book.
We're talking about that this weekend and how we were deprived of what. So Future Quest was Darwin's idea, and it was wonderful, and I loved it. And I think DC fumbled the ball every which way, left and right, about letting it go and then getting rid of the rights and whatever they're doing now. But imagine if Darwin had been there to work on it.
It would have been spectacular.
I mean, it was. Nothing to take away from Doc and Jeff and everything that worked on that, but like that was his particular, idea about how comics should work. It was very unique for his age, the age he worked in. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. So we were talking about Wonder Woman and seeing seeing same-sex stuff in there. So I interviewed Trina Robbins once, and I know you worked with her, and someone had asked about, and I think it was someone had asked about her opinion on the Wonder Woman movie and the representation of lesbianism in that, and what her thoughts were. She told a great story, so I'm going to share it with you because I think you'd like it. So when she was working on her book, the first book that was about the women superheroes and kind of researching that, I think she was working with Kat Ironwood on it. She wanted to know more about the writers of Wonder Woman. So I think Moulton was gone, so she called the writer of Wonder Woman like in the 50s and 60s, and it was a great way the story unfolded because she couldn't remember his name. She was like, I know I called him up, and you could hear Steve on the other side of the camera yelling the name, and it was it was Bob Kanigher who she called up. Now I don't know if you guys know Bob Kanigher. I know you didn't know him, but you're lucky, okay, because he's a fairly odious human being as far as I've been told. But she called him up, and he said, "Oh, you want to know about the Amazons and the Wonder Woman? They're all lesbians." And I said to Trina, I said, "Was that the only time you ever spoke to Bob Kanigher?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Well, then you win. You win. That's all."
Yeah.
But that whole concept of Wonder Woman's sexuality has always been there. It's always been part of that from the beginning. It just was hidden or intentionally glossed or intentionally changed.
Right.
It's something that was intended to be there.
Yeah, she told a good story one time. I was on a panel with her. It was when we were working on Wonder Woman 77 at the time, and she was saying that because someone had asked about the whole Zeus thing, and she hated the whole Zeus father thing.
As do I.
I mean, we all do, but she was saying, she goes, no, Wonder Woman has two moms. She's Hippolyta, and then Athena gave her the breath of life. She's got two moms. Two women made her. So she was very adamant about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
She was amazing. I'm tremendously grateful that I had the opportunity to talk to her. And she is a big reason why I think that the world has changed for the better. I think she was part of that from the beginning.
For sure.
My last kind of silly question is, if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
I would do healing.
You heal yourself or heal other people?
Heal others. I would do like if I could touch someone, I could heal them. That would be
you'd be elixir.
Great.
Yeah, I would love to. I would just love to have that where I could just heal people by touch, for sure.
Yeah. So that was the same answer that Daryl Banks gave.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. How about you, Kat?
Well, I should have gone first because now I just sound.
No. There's listen.
There's no wrong answer.
No, I just
superpowers are all great.
I know.
There's no wrong answer.
I know. I don't know that I would want to fly because I feel like the thought of flying stresses me out with other people in the world. If there was no one else in the world, that'd be fun. I actually think I would like invisibility. I kind of always have been. I've always kind of been the invisible person, like, the wallflower. I'm a very introverted person, and I tend to just stand around and listen. So if I could do that and not be seen, that would be great.
She wants to be a spy. This all gets back.
It does.
This all goes back to all her spy stuff. She loves
want to be James Bond.
Crime spy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to talk about whatever else you want to talk about. Anything you want to talk about going on in the world today of any days? No.
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 All this is too much.
So it's true. We don't we talk on the show. My Mike's here. He will get political. I don't know if you guys have met Mike, but someday I'll make sure that you do that. And he will. He has to share his things because he'll try and keep it quiet. But we do, and we like this show to be a place for people to kind of escape from the horrors of the world outside today. But we also want to acknowledge that it's there.
It's absolutely there.
You know, whenever we see each other, there's usually some politics that we're upset about. We yell at each other.
I mean, I'm sure there's something new in the time that we've been talking.
Probably.
Just look up and we'll be like, oh
Hopefully
no,
not.
now this.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. You guys are safe though. You guys are out on the West Coast, and it's always difficult with what's going on there. How has that changed your community?
Well, I mean, right now, a lot of people are anxious. A lot of people
on edge.
are, I mean, right now there are people that are disappearing from lives in society, and we're in Los Angeles, particularly here. And people are stressed about their families, their loved ones. I mean, we all have in Los Angeles, we all have people in our lives who are worried, and with good reason right now, about what the next few days may bring. So that's, right now life is kind of interesting. We try to, we have a little girl, we try to keep life light and fun and good and safe for her. And as far as, our day-to-day life is, like, we're safe, we're okay. There are people that we worry about, but we're fine. If you listened to some news, you would think that everything was,
on fire
in an uproar, but it's not. It's people worried about people they care about. But
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. All
right. Well, we need to remind people that on July 22nd, Death Mask Volume 2, ICHOR AZURE by Amanda Deibert and Kat Staggs, and with Marshall Dillon on letters, comes out at your comic shop and online. You can get it at stormkingcomics.com. I know that they have a direct sales. You can also get it probably, I think they put them on Amazon.
It's up on Amazon. I believe it's also Barnes and Noble. And comic shops. Yeah, it's basically where books are sold.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. I
thank you.
Just thrilled that we had this opportunity, and I look forward to doing it again sometime if you'd like.
Absolutely.
Are you guys going to be anywhere you want to tell people to come and see you?
San Diego.
I am going to San Diego for the first time this year.
Ooh, it's a fun one. We have a booth, so come check us out.
Over there, and then tentative is Rose City and New York.
Okay, sounds good. Hopefully those happen for you, and people get to see you, and you can sign their books and all kinds of stuff like that. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you.
Stay safe. And we look forward to the book.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. We are going to be back next week. We're going to be here with Rich Case next week. Mike, I believe, is going to be here. Thank you, everybody, for being here again. And we look forward to bringing you some more stories next week. So until then, let's see you next week. Bye, guys.
This has been a production of the Pop Culture Squad Network. PopCultureSquad.com. How do you nerd?